You yourself investigated this man called Malcolm McCauley.
That's correct. Yes, I did. Yes, I investigated Malcolm for quite some time, many months, as a matter of fact.
With your investigation at all, were you able to find any connection between Malcolm and Michael Corby Senior?
Absolutely not, and they were extensive investigations. We approached dozens of people. None of them had any information whatsoever that linked McCauley with Michael Corby Senior. There was no factual information whatsoever available.
Could you just elaborate on, say, give the listener an idea of when you say an extensive investigation into Malcolm McCauley's connection with Mick Corby? What kind of things did you have to look at to actually seek this information out about, to see if there was a connection between the two of them?
Okay, look, that's a good question. Some of our methods, sadly, I can't reveal because we use contacts, and some of our contacts and sources are in positions where they're able to provide us with information that I need, but I'm unable to name those sources. But we did speak at length to associates of Malcolm McCauley's.
Yeah.
We spoke at length with his accomplices that were involved in the drug trade. We also spoke at length with people who were supplying Malcolm McCauley with the hydroponic equipment for him to grow the drugs.
So he was definitely a player in the drug business.
He definitely was, yes. We would not describe him as a major player. He was an amateur. That came through from many people that had had dealings with him. They reported on the problems that he'd had getting his hydroponic crops growing. Apparently he knew nothing about growing hydroponic marijuana, and his first few attempts were unsuccessful. And he was not highly regarded as a marijuana grower.
How did Malcolm actually become under the radar of?
We were tipped off that there was some association between them.
Who tipped you off?
It was an anonymous source to.
Yeah.
Initially said that there was a link between them, and it was suggested that there was a link between them after the photos of Malcolm McCauley visiting Chappelle in Kerabakan came out. But once again, we investigated that, spoke to many, many people, and there was no link between McCauley and any of the Corbys whatsoever. Phone records were checked, dating back 8 years.
8 years.
Yes. And many other records were checked. They never lived near each other. If they communicated, they may have done it telepathically or via some method that the rest of us don't know of or don't know how to use.
Yeah.
But there was no way that they used any normal form of communication to communicate. Look, there is no way that McCauley knew the Corbys. He's just lying.
Right.
He's making it up as he goes along.
Yeah. Some say that a certain amount of money can make a man lie. Do you know whether Malcolm McCauley ever got paid to actually tell his story?
Yes, my understanding is that Malcolm McCauley was paid to tell his story. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And you understand the payment systems of how you actually can make payments without being seen. Um, in what way did Malcolm McCauley get paid?
I, excuse me, I wasn't involved in the payment to McCauley. That wasn't something that wasn't done by me, Di. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So
Did
I
you hear
don't.
of any rumours of how much he could have been paid?
We heard that he got paid 25,000 for his interview.
Just which interview? Because he did a few.
No, that was.
Right.
But I don't know. I didn't do the interview, and I didn't work on any of that
Mm.
area. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So the sum of around $25,000 is quite a bit, isn't it? So
It is, and I believe that he was paid by several others as well. But they don't always pay directly. Quite often, the payments are made via third parties, i.e., someone like ourselves. We're instructed to make the payments.
yeah, there's one there. What sort of sums were we talking about? Well, we've been through that. So you said Malcolm got about $25,000.
Yes, and that was
Um,
just for one interview.
that
Yep.
was just one interview. So they see a cash cow there, they just run with it, don't they?
It was a very topical story, and all of the networks were happy to throw lots of
Lots
money
of
at
money
anything.
at it, yeah.
Oh, anything to do with the name Corby.
Okay, well, with the media knowing that they're using these people, sus people, like, then knowingly using drug addicts,
Oh yes.
criminals who are spinning false stories,
Yep.
even go to court and lie. There is one lady that comes to mind that actually did that, and that is a lady called Kim Moore.
Yes.
Um, Now, what can you tell us about Kim? How did she come into the picture?
ABC tipped off to Kim
Yeah.
about Kim, and
Because
then
she did
Channel.
appear on Late Line, didn't she? On one of
That's right.
those
Yes,
shows. Yeah.
with John Stewart and another journalist, Gumback, I think her name is. I think
Oh,
I can't remember.
Rebecca. I think
Um,
it is Rebecca Gumbach, isn't it?
is that it?
I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
that's her name.
Yes. They were
Okay.
from the investigative unit.
So
Passed over.
everybody was running around trying to get as much
Exactly.
as they
Yes.
could, as you dirt on the Corbies as they possibly could, and anybody that could say anything negative about the Corbies was a bonus.
At one stage, we didn't have enough reporters to cover the people who were calling with information.
Really.
Yes. And none of the information turned out to be factual. We were interviewing people that had heard rumours from their hairdresser,
Yeah.
someone from their butcher, an ex-school teacher from the school that one of the boys went to, some ex-boyfriends, girlfriends. There were thousands of leads and tips coming in, but none of them went anywhere. Not one single one. And we followed
And
all
you,
of these.
yeah, and you guys were actually wanted and were on the hunt to get as much dirt as you possibly could rake up on the Corbies, yet you still didn't strike pay dirt, as you would say.
Exactly.
How did this Kim Moore become credible too? She was portrayed as a credible witness.
It was the police intelligence report that was able to get Kim Moore over the line. She'd completed the police intelligence report, and 3 weeks later, Chappelle was arrested and was satisfied on the surface that there was a linkage between the information in that intelligence report and the subsequent arrest of Chappelle. I have my doubts. I don't believe that there is a linkage at all. At all. I don't believe that there was. I don't believe that they were connected. And when we spoke to the authorities in Indonesia and the Australian Federal Police, they said the same thing, that there was no linkage established by them.
Yeah,
From
and
that
Kim Moore's
intelligence report.
credibility was thrown out the window when she actually appeared in court, and she was discredited apparently, or if her information was not quite the truth. So
That's right. She'd embellished and exaggerated her information so much she backed herself into a corner with her lies.
yeah,
She tried telling people that she had been social with Tony Lewis and Michael Corby out at the Lewis property, and yet when she was asked questions to describe the Lewis property, she fell apart. She couldn't remember some of the details, and yet some of the details were very easily and obviously recalled.
right.
No,
And again, we come back to obviously she would have made some money out of her stories.
Oh yes, she made a lot of money out of her story. Yes.
Yeah. Give you any idea how much she could have made out of her story?
Um, figures close to 30,000 were initially moved around,
Wow.
bandied about.
Yeah.
I believe that Kim got somewhere close to about 38,000 for her interviews. There was a rumour that she got close to 60,000, but I was never able to substantiate that. But
This was a lady that was actually living in a car, wasn't it? With her, was it with her son at the time
well,
of all this was going down? That the
look, so
Corbys were under the media spotlight.
So she alleges. She alleges that she was living in a car for anywhere from 18 months to 2 years, but we spoke to people that said that that wasn't the case, and that she in actual fact had either rented premises from them or had shared premises with them. She may have lived in her car for a couple of weeks, in between transiting from one residence to another. She was a poor woman. She wasn't wealthy. But yes, that's right. She did claim to be living in her car, but when we investigated that was not substantiated. It wasn't the truth.
So her story just did not. It just didn't add up.
No, it didn't add up at all. No.
But yet the media, and they all ran with this woman,
yes,
and painted an absolutely horrible picture of the Corbys.
Well, they got overexcited. When they saw this police report, and I've seen thousands of police reports, and you don't ever take them too seriously. It's just a report. It's just a statement. That you can go along and make a police report tomorrow, as can I and any other member of the public. Doesn't mean that it's factual. But they all became very excited because in these police reports, she mentioned that there was a Michael who was taking drugs to Bali, but she couldn't provide a description of the Michael to the police at the time. I've seen the police report. There was no physical description, and yet she was asked.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to provide a police report about someone allegedly transporting drugs internationally and claim to have met him, you would be able to provide an age, a description, and a little bit more information, and she was unable to do that. Now, there's been a lot of talk that she actually mentioned Michael Corby in that police report. That is a lie.
I know it's a lie, Colin, because I have a copy of the police report. She does not mention Michael.
Thank you. Thank you. You can, yes, so there you go. Okay, I've heard that so many times that it says Corby in that police report, and I keep telling people it does not.
It does not say Corby.
And it doesn't describe him either, does it?
No.
Right. Well, if you met Michael Corby, he's an easy man to describe.
And not an easy man to forget either.
Exactly.
He's a big fella.
He's grizzly. He's got this big, huge beard, and he's got a bit of a pot belly, and you don't.
And he's quite loud because he's a little deaf, so he's not, and he talks very loud because of his deafness from.
Yeah, you would not forget the beard.
No.
You would not forget the belly, the height, the size, the.
Exactly.
Anything, you wouldn't forget it, and yet she.
Yet she just jumped up and the media just took her word for it and ran with the story at the most horrible time that they could possibly run with it, when Chappelle was going up for an appeal.
I know.
You know, and the media just ran wild with it, and it got over, and it went back over to Indonesia, that these people had come forward that said Michael was connected to Macaulay, or Chappelle was connected to Macaulay, which was a bunch of lies, even to the point where the pictures were stated as being not taken in a prison setting. Well, I've been to that prison, and they were in that prison setting.
Oh, yes, they are. Yes, they are definitely in that prison setting. That's correct, yes. You
did mention to me that sometimes even these criminals or people that have got past history of telling lies go out of their way to actually recruit some of maybe their friends, or go look for people to tell lies with them to help them validate their own lie.
Well, and the case in point is actually Kim Moore.
Exactly, that's where I was coming back to. Kim actually did do that to one young lady who will only, uh, what will we call her? Anne. Let's call her
Okay.
Anne.
Yep.
Now, Anne was approached by Kim Moore to. Would you like to explain what Kim
Yes.
asked her to do?
Yes. Kim asked Anne to state that she had met Michael Corby Jr. and that she knew Michael Corby Jr. to be a major drug distributor in ecstasy, speed, and marijuana, cannabis, and that she would be paid by via myself for this information. And Kim spent quite some time coaching her on the phone of the names, of the details, of the dates, etc. Within a very short period, Anne had contacted me and confessed everything to me about Kim trying to get her to lie and to make up stories. I interviewed Anne at length about this. We never revealed this to Kim Moore. We didn't want Kim to know that we knew, and that way she would keep trying to do this, so we would be able to verify her information and to see whether she was lying or what type of person she was. So that's why we never told Kim Moore that we knew she was lying.
Right. And Kim's motive for actually getting Anne to lie, did you ever find out what that motive was? What
Yes,
the motive was for?
Yes, her motives for doing that were to substantiate her own story.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted witnesses to bolster her own story, and also because she was going to get more money.
You never ran with the stories about this, did you?
No, and I did express my concerns at the time to, and that was disregarded. I did caution them. I told them that Kim was telling lies. I was quite clear on the fact that Kim had tried to entice an individual, another member of the public, to tell lies. I went into detail about that.
Yeah.
I was encouraged to forget that.
You're telling me that you told that Kim was telling lies, and they chose to ignore your advice and still ran with the story.
That's correct, yes. I went into quite a bit of detail about the lies that she was telling, and also my suspicions. And it wasn't just based on this one Anne. I had run several other possibilities past Kim. I was actually giving her options to lie. I was encouraging her. I was telling her little stories that we'd heard that she might be able to verify. I was making them up as I went along. And she had a wonderful imagination. She was able to fill in my fantasy stories with her own fantasy stories to embellish my fantasies even more. And then when I showed her a photo of young James Cassina, I think his name is. Is that how I pronounce it, Cassina?
Yeah.
Yes, I showed her a photo of a youth who was similar to James.
Yeah.
And she jumped up and down and said, "That's James, that's Jamie, that's the boy. I met him. I was there the night that we did this deal on the side of the road at Miriam Vale. Jamie, they called him. He drove up from Brisbane, and he and I chatted, and the photo wasn't of James Cassina. It was just of a young man that looked something like him."
So you actually tricked her?
Yes, I did, yes.
What you're saying, Colin, that you actually told that Kim Moore was lying and they ignored you?
That's correct.
And they ran the story?
Yes, and I did point out several, not just one or two instances. I believe that I pointed out up to half a dozen separate instances where I had found that Kim had been lying, misrepresenting the facts, distorting, embellishing, and I pointed all of these out to them and I said, I have grave concerns. They continued to point back to the police intelligence report, and they felt that they could rest on that. But when I explained to them my experience with police intelligence reports and went over the police intelligence report in a little bit more detail with them, the only thing in there that could ever be tied in with the Corbys was the use of the word Michael. And the name Michael is a very, very common name in Australia, so I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair either. And it certainly wouldn't be for any police officer or any member of any paramilitary service in Australia to go ahead and arrest somebody based on the use of a name Michael in a police intelligence report. There was no description. There was nothing. It was even a poorly taken police intelligence report. It was very poorly done.
Yeah.
But yes, in answer to your question, that's right. Yes, I did tell them she was lying. I had grave concerns about it, and that I felt that we should be checking her facts further. And I was encouraged to not only forget that, but also to forget investigating her facts any further.
Wow. How did you feel about that?
I wasn't real happy. I didn't like it. You don't like being involved in something like that. It compromises your integrity. It compromises us to the people that we work with. All of a sudden they're saying, well, don't do your investigation properly, tell lies.
Colin, what I want to cover here is when the media actually say they never make any payments for stories, how do they get around this? Because we've actually heard that they do pay people for stories.
Certainly. When they mention they didn't pay them, quite often it's because a third party or a contractor associated with the network has made the payment on their behalf.
So a contractor could be like you yourself would be given the money to pay, or?
Exactly, that's right, yes.
Yeah.
We'd
So
either
they
be
can
given...
truly say, well, we never paid them, but Colin paid them.
That's right. So we would either be given the money to pay them, or it would just be included in our invoice, our invoice for our work.
So your invoice for the work, what would be? Well, if say they're going to be paid $4,000 for a story,
Yes.
then you would, with your bill being your bill, you would add another 4,000 to your bill, and you just get paid because you've paid them. Is that Is that the idea?
Exactly. At times, the expense may have to be described, and sometimes that expense might be described as an incentive payment or a commission or a payment for some other purpose.
Right. So, yeah. So when they do say they're not paying for the stories, they're actually telling lie. Well, they're not telling a lie, but they're actually skirting around it and getting around it in other ways.
Exactly. Third parties, contractors
So
like
that
ourselves.
would be the same for Macaulay. Would that be the same for him? And
yes.
Kim Moore.
And Kim Moore. That's
and Alan Trembath, the cousin.
Yes, definitely, Alan.
You know, many people.
Yes. Yes, and not just the Corbys, many other stories, past and present.
And a lot of what we actually have seen on TV about the Corbys, and a lot of the accusations thrown up about the Corbys have not been the truth as well, because you've actually investigated quite a few of these claims to find that they are not the truth.
That's right, I have. When we started investigating Chappelle and the Corby family back in, I think it was October... Oh dear, just give me a moment here to get my dates right. She was arrested 2006, is that right?
2004 she was arrested, 8th of October, 2004.
So it would have been November. We flew over there in October. Yes, that's right, because Kim Moore made the police statement in September. We flew over in October, 2 days after she was arrested. So from then onwards, we were being given information by many, many people, and we constantly investigated the leads, the sources, followed through on every avenue. We were very excited about it because at one stage we were adamant that, yes, the family was involved in drugs, and
well, that's what you needed to find, wasn't it? So you
nailed
the Corbys, really.
Well, that's right, and also that's what my job is to get evidence, to get proof, and we were getting hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating now when I say we were getting hundreds of calls, leads, tips, and became so much. There became so much of an avalanche of this information that it became almost impossible to believe that it couldn't be true, and yet not one single piece or shred of information was ever proven to be true. And what about the next time?
Well, I mean, basically what's happened with all these people telling lies about the Corby, Chappelle is where she is today. She's now into her 8th year, and we have these people like Kim, like Macaulay, coming out and telling lies.
I know.
And the hardest part with all these lies that they are telling is getting the media to print the truth, to actually expose these people. Why do you think they don't want to expose them? Is it because they actually created them?
Look, that's a fair point. That is a fair statement, actually. I hadn't looked at it like that, because they've actually created them.